Welcome back to the We're Here podcast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Tony.
Today we have a little bit different episode for you. It's December, it's the end of the year, and so we've had a great year interviewing some great guests on our podcast. So we wanted to give you some highlights from this last year that we picked out for you or as our audience.
I'm looking forward to seeing them. Paul picked them all out, and I edited some of them, but I never did watch all of them. So I'm looking forward to, with you guys, experiencing all these clips we've picked out from all these different wonderful guests we've had this year, and just enjoying the city that is Streator.
Yeah.
So let's get into this podcast, and we'll talk about each clip a little bit in between, and just hold on tight for this roller coaster of a ride.
Okay, Tony, so I've got some clips picked out for us,
Okay.
and so these are going to be kind of paired in themes.
Okay.
We'll explain those along the way.
All right.
The first clip is Rob McCabe. We traveled to Rob's to the place where he works, the city center in Columbus, and so I had a great interview with him, and he had some great words to say about Streator.
He fed us some good barbecue.
He did. It was very good.
It was really good.
City barbecue. It was really good. All right, here we go. So here's a clip from Rob.
For a guy like me who sometimes has to travel across the country, this is going to sound cheesy, but I mean it. I know I have a place to stop in Illinois.
Yeah.
If I ever needed a warm place out of the cold, driving on a rainy or snowy, I've got friends in Streator.
Yeah.
I'm serious. To know you guys are there, that is a huge blessing right there in the heart of the country.
That's so great to hear. So
Well, here's what's really cool. So if you look at a typical meal pack here, the diversity of people that come from, let's say it was Streator and greater Streator area. People just coming together, and then they start talking. And then they start realizing that they have this common unity, which is community, right? I have a 76-year-old Jewish woman who's on our Spark volunteer team.
Yeah.
She's here at every meal pack. I've got, kids, Boy Scouts. I've got, the American Heritage Girls. I've got firefighters and teachers and students. I mean, all kinds of, a whole cross-section.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of when a community comes together, whether it's a meal pack or a car wash, or a festival. It's all of us coming together and realizing we're all in this thing together. And it proves itself out. People realize, wow, there's people that have the same values and beliefs that I do. They want to make this a better world.
You know what? I love Rob.
Rob's a good guy.
He, I've really become good friends with him over the years, and I've loved his heart for people and the world, and I think that shows in that clip.
Yeah. He's got such a great story. Check out the podcast episode. He shares his testimony on there about a squirrel. Don't miss that part. It's fantastic.
It's really good.
Almost showed that today, but but yeah, as far as he just loves community. He's just a guy that loves community in every form of it. Whether it's community accomplishing something or community going somewhere and serving other people. He's just a guy that absolutely thrives on connection and community, and that's why we love him so much. So,
Yep.
Yeah. So our next clip is Julie Ramza. Julie is the president of Coming Together Get Ahead and St. Vincent de Paul here in Streator, and she had some great things to say about just the changes that she's seen in our town. So here we go. Here's Julie.
It's tough because, we don't have jobs to get the, you have dentists, you have doctors, you have engineers, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But we don't need as many as what we probably are sending out into the world. Yeah. But to come back to town, Streator's an hour and a half from Chicago, but I can live here and be there an hour and a half and don't have to deal with traffic every day, on and on. It's that kind of a situation. I don't wait in line anywhere for anything. Yeah. So Streator's good that way. If you're a young woman and you're planning on a family, we have the Streator Child Care Center. We have the YMCA that has before school and after school care. I mean, we have everything you're going to need here.
Yeah.
And you're going to get it on a more personal level, I think.
And maybe
And
more
enjoy it.
affordable too. I mean, in
Oh,
some way.
definitely more
than
affordable.
living in a
Definitely.
big
Oh, my
city.
goodness, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
We get to the CTGA program,
Yeah.
you'll hear about rents.
So Julie starts off kind of the group of clips that I picked. Some of our older generation are mixed in through here. We have a little bit of a mix of younger and older generations, but I think that's just a great perspective on somebody that's lived in our community for a long time about the benefits of she even said we may not have every job that a young person might be looking for, but even as the value of a small town where you can live and have everything you need in one place and not have to travel really far to get it. I think that's just a great perspective on our town as a whole.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed her interview because I learned a lot. There was a lot of things she's involved with that I've heard about over the years, but I didn't exactly know what those organizations did or why they existed, and she really opened up that door for me for knowing more, which is always good. And what this podcast is about, it's about learning everything that Streator has to offer. And she certainly opened up some doors in my mind.
Absolutely. So our next clip is Mr. Pete, or Lyle
Pete.
Peterson, Tubal Cain, YouTube sensation.
He is a YouTube sensation.
He was a hoot to have on the podcast. We were so happy to have him. So he's got some interesting insights to share as well. So,
Well, I was teaching machine shop for the first 25 years, but in 1988 at the high school, that's when they started canceling shop classes. So I think machine shop was probably the first one to close for several reasons. First of all, it was a very expensive program to run, incredibly expensive, almost as expensive as sports programs. So anyway, when that was pulled out from under me, they did it for a reason. Part of the reason, besides the expense, is that these little machine shops around town were closing as the owners got older and died and things like that. And there really was no call for that anymore. And then slowly, one at a time, the bigger factories started closing as well. So there wasn't a big job market anymore for machinists, and certainly not for foundry. And I was teaching foundry. Matter of fact, I was teaching how to make buggy whips for many years, as my dad would put it. I didn't.
What's a buggy whip?
Yeah, what's a buggy whip? Well, I don't know, but here's how to make one.
Oh,
So
I love that.
yeah, so that's how things evolved, and then they pulled me out of there, and I was teaching math, like a vocational math, and welding I liked, but I didn't like teaching math or computers. And they were taking old shop classes, rooms, and selling all the equipment, and then turning it into a computer lab, and I didn't like that at all. So I did take an early retirement because of that, and then ended up coming back. I probably retired too early, but I had to get away from teaching math. No offense to you math teachers out there.
So he is a YouTube sensation.
Yeah.
The numbers on his YouTube video of our podcast destroy.
We're through the roof. Yeah.
Destroy all the other ones. And that's nothing about the other guests.
Yeah.
It's just he is
He's
a
brought his
YouTube
audience with him.
sensation, and you'd never know it by talking to him, but
Yeah.
he is a YouTube sensation, and you said it, he was just a hoot.
Yeah.
I enjoyed every minute we had talking to him.
And I think part of it is these older folks in our town, they have a great perspective on how things were, how they've changed, but also what I've noticed, even with our older guests, none of them have lost hope.
No.
None of them lost hope for our town. And so, I feel like Lyle did a great job of capturing the changes in that clip. And he did go on to talk about the benefit of, hands-on experience and teaching the next generation. He's just so incredibly, his heart just pours out for education and teaching the next generation how to build things with their own hands and the benefit that has, especially in a small community. And so it was such an honor to have him. But I think it ties in really well to our next clip. So this is Art and Ed from the Streator Ramp Builders.
Yeah.
And they were also a hoot to have,
Yeah, they were.
just to talk before and during and after. But I think Ed has a great perspective on that idea of not losing hope and how we need to support local businesses and things like that.
Ed's a straight shooter.
Yeah. Yep. So here's the Streator Ramp Builders.
The volunteerism in this town is just, you don't hear about a lot of it, maybe, I don't know, but the volunteerism in this town is just amazing.
Yeah.
When you look at like our 4th of July celebration and our, when they light up the city park, I mean, that's all volunteers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because we don't have the big factories with the high numbers of employment anymore, doesn't mean that Streator can't still be a thriving town.
Yeah.
You just have to change with the times a little bit.
Yeah.
But the people who have taken the time to invest, in opening a business in this town, and we as a community, we need to support them people. As our group alone, we have a lumberyard here in town, and that's who we buy our material from. But because we don't have the bigger box stores like that, doesn't mean we shouldn't support our town.
Yeah.
And support the businesses that are here.
Yeah, so just hearing Ed pour out his heart, and I know all of those guys have a great sense of the needs of our community, and so many of the volunteers in our town are from that older generation. Yeah. You look at the Ramp Builders, there are so many households that they've benefited and impacted. We have, he mentioned a few things, Light Up Streator, those decorations are going up now, and it's just incredible to see that. And so all of those things just shows me our town's ability to kind of pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. And even if things are not the way they used to be, they're not as, in some people's minds, maybe not as good as they used to be, we're not living in the golden era or whatever. That doesn't mean things can't be good. And
Right.
and that's really what I heard from that older generation of people that we interviewed this year.
Almost every person we've interviewed at one point talks about Streator volunteerism and the fact that if you have a need or anything, someone is there that can help provide assistance and wants to help and wants to volunteer. And that's just been across the board with just about every person that we've interviewed. So I was glad he highlighted that in that clip. I believe this next clip is someone you know
Yes.
quite well.
Yeah.
It is your wife,
Yes.
Tiffany Webster, who is you're going to help me out with her title. What's her title?
She's the assistant director.
Assistant director, Madam Assistant
Yeah.
Director of the library in town. And so I really enjoyed the interview with her. She had a lot of good things, and again, opened my eyes to things in the library I didn't even know were a thing.
Yeah.
So let's check this out.
The Streator that I remember from growing up seemed like a small town. It seemed there were a lot of the way a lot of the businesses were set up. The connections with neighbors. It was very much a small town type of mentality, and I mean that in a positive way. Yeah. You have that familiarity, you have that closeness with people, and I still see that in Streator, because people here are amazing. You're asking for volunteers or support, and people come out. They respond to that, and that's great to see. It's fantastic. I think one of the biggest differences I've seen is kind of the modernization of some of the business models here, which is really exciting because you can keep that small town aspect and that small town, those small town connections, but then you can have larger businesses coming in. You can, have people coming in for tourism, like some of the summer festivals that they're doing. We're drawing thousands of people now, which is incredible. That's amazing.
Yeah. The park becomes a center of all that. The bandstand there and pavilion, and it really has grown in its culture. Like that kind of sounds weird, but I almost feel like we've become more of ourselves in a way. Like this is what makes us great, and here's more of it.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting. A lot of the things that happen in town are new, like they're new things that are happening, but it also points us to the past.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like remembers the way things were years ago, and it points back to that, but it's still fresh and new.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it feels.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's very appropriate for our town because we do have a lot of interesting and neat history that I love sharing that with people who just recently moved here, or maybe they grew up here and they haven't never heard it. So I think that's really a cool thing to be able to share with people.
So an overarching theme in a lot of this is connecting our past with our present.
Yeah.
You said something great, I think, about the history of our town. Obviously, that's a lot of Tiff's work at the library. It's a lot of, we interviewed Dave Reed last year.
Yeah.
His work, who we are, and I think Dave said something along the lines of who we were kind of determines who we are, or has kind of laid a groundwork. It's kind of in our DNA.
Yeah.
Of this is a hardworking town. This is a blue collar town. And it's a place where people have always, like we said, kind of pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps and served within our community. And I think that's just a great way to summarize what Streator is all about and why we've been able to thrive and survive through so many different eras of change.
Yeah, I agree.
So our next clip is Shannon Harback again. So these next few are kind of the next generation. I thought I'd kind of pair them together, and we'll see what some of our next generation leaders have to say about our town. So here's Shannon Harback from the Streator YMCA.
I've had some people come up to me and they're like, "Oh, you're so-and-so's granddaughter." It's like, yeah, I sure am. Who are you? One person that comes to mind is Judy Booz.
Yeah.
You've interviewed her.
Sure.
She's director of the Salvation Army. And I was actually president of Key Club when I was in high school.
Wow.
And, we participated in the canned food drive with them, bell ringing with them. So I've known her. My grandma actually volunteered at the Salvation Army for many years, sorting through donations that they got for the thrift store. So I know Judy for a lot of different reasons. And it's funny now, we both attended like the United Way dinner, and I'm now sitting at the table next to her.
Yeah.
And that's a very, that's kind of a shell shock when, all of a sudden I'm her equal in terms of what we're bringing to the community. And that's just like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
How am I in this position?
It's almost humbling, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah,
I saw the program director position at the Y, and I thought, what a cool way to give back to the community that I'm from. I applied for the job kind of randomly and just on a whim, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but I definitely nailed the interview. And I walked out of there and I was like, well, crap. Now they're going to offer that to me, and now I'm going to have to make a decision, because I had a job that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to venture into the nonprofit world or not. So sure enough, I got a call that, they offered me the position. I took it a couple days to think on it. And I said, you know what? I feel something's drawing me to this. So I went ahead and took it. Jill Seaton was the executive director at the time. Her family has since moved away. Her husband got a job opportunity in Springfield while I was on maternity leave. And then all of a sudden, here I am with this decision. I was in the program director position for 2 years prior to that. And okay, do I want to take this next leap into the executive director role? And I kind of thought to myself, this wouldn't be happening if this opportunity wouldn't be there if I wasn't meant to go for it. So I don't feel that you're ever fully ready for a position like that, or, to take that next step, but you kind of just have to take a leap of faith sometimes if you feel that door is opening for a reason. So I think in my 2 years of being program director, understanding how the nonprofit world operates gave me a lot more confidence, especially at being in this community, because Streator is so giving, and whether that's with their time, their finances, whatever, it just meant a lot knowing that, okay, even though this is a nonprofit world that I'm diving into, I know I'm very supported by the board, by our staff, by the community, and that really just makes all the difference when you're talking a world of nonprofit.
Yeah, you see, she even mentioned volunteerism.
Yeah. And there are a lot of young leaders in Streator right now that have kind of been given the reins. And I love, she also mentioned the support, the community support, that we've had several young people say on our podcast that, they've been kind of handed the reins. It's this next generation coming up. they're taking over from, she mentioned Judy Booz and there's this older generation, but they're also allowing younger generations to step in and take on that role as well. And so I just think that's a testament to our community.
And it's because that older generation has built a foundation to build on.
Absolutely.
So that's good.
Yep. So speaking of young leaders, we have next is Felicia Brown. Felicia is a behavioral interventionalist at, I believe that's her title, at Woodland. I think I got that right. If not, sorry, Felicia. But she talks about growing up in Streator as well, and just some of the changes that she's seen over the years.
And I would say one of the best things about Streator is that the community always comes together when there's a need that needs to be met.
Absolutely.
Whether that's fundraising or volunteering or just helping through schools and churches. I think that's one of the things that is the most special about Streator that you don't see in a lot of other bigger areas.
Sure.
Let alone just being able to go to the grocery store and run into people or your kids' coaches and things like that. So I would say that's one of the nicest things about Streator. And then as far as it's changed, I think especially over the last 5 to 10 years, the development of our main street and the small shops and boutiques and coffee shops, that has just been amazing to see. I remember growing up and a lot of times people would be like, oh, there's nothing to do in Streator. Oh, it's terrible. And now it's like Main Street has become its own little destination place to be. And we love to show off the Blue-Eyed Rascal and More on Main and those boutiques when we have people come in from out of town, which is super fun. As far as memories, I played community sports growing up and was involved in different plays and shows through the high school. And I would say just the best part about being in Streator is I feel like as a child, I felt very safe and nurtured, and that I was able to grow up, I guess, sheltered from some of the things that other kiddos in bigger areas had to be a part of.
So Felicia did a great job summarizing what it's like to grow up in Streator, and also a great job of talking about those changes. She did highlight that downtown area, and that's something that's come up over and over again in our conversations, and how revitalizing that area has really breathed new life into the city as a whole.
Yes.
So with that, so our next clip is of Jen McMullen. She's the owner of More on Main, and really, really enjoyed our talk with Jen. Learned a lot of things about that, the downtown area. Just the story of bringing a new business into town is just incredible. And they've just celebrated opening another location in Ottawa.
Wow.
So,
nice.
So fantastic to see that. So here's Jen.
The business owners have made a huge difference in what's going on downtown. Everybody, taking advantage of the facade grant and refreshing all the facades has made a huge difference. I think putting everything being occupied, or most of things being occupied, I think has made a huge difference. Obviously, the more businesses we have downtown, the more traffic we're getting. Like, we're having people come from Dwight to shop because they heard Streator's got all these boutiques downtown. That's fantastic, and it takes all of us being open to do those things. It is a challenge. I mean, there's times where it's very difficult to be a small business owner, and it's no different in Streator. When people are paying more for their groceries, they're not going to buy a new shirt, and they're not going to, buy a new candle. And that's the first thing to go. But I do think that everybody has to be aware, even though you pay more for stuff, when you buy it locally in these small shops, you're not doing that so that these people can get rich. You're doing it so they can keep their business open, because it makes all the difference. So I just want everybody, that's my little shop local. If you want the stores to stay, you absolutely have to shop at them. And I owned Inspired Whisk for the last year that it was open, because the original owner moved on to a different job. And I said, I love Inspired Whisk. I'm going to try to keep it open because I'm obviously a person who likes to cook, and I loved all the stuff. And I couldn't do it either. It's difficult to keep a small business open. So I just want everybody keep those businesses open. So our downtown is dependent on people shopping at them more than it's dependent on the owners or maybe equal parts because they can't stay without customers. Purchasing food and drinks from us, the more people I employ. Yeah. And I mean, we have 20 employees right now, and that's 20 people who didn't have a job or maybe a different job, but those were new jobs, in town that are created because people want our products. Yeah. And that goes, same thing happens with all the stores.
So just that idea of shopping local, everybody says that. The importance of that is, like Jen just said, that's creating jobs locally, that's creating local economy, local taxes. And it's not just an economic thing. There's something about the spirit of a community when you can provide for yourself, I think. And that's what we've seen at play here, when you don't have to go to another community in order to, and I'm not saying it's bad to have to work with other communities, but there's something about being self-sustaining and being able to be able to build what you need where you need it, and it just works better for the people in that community. Yeah,
and our next interview is a perfect example of that. Is Kathy Missel, who is the sitting president of the board at Engle Lane Community Theater in town, and I've served with Kathy on the board for years before, and she has a really unique perspective on the theater itself and how the community has really come together to make that theater function for years. So I really enjoyed her interview. Let's check out her clip. Yeah.
And after the tornado, when we had this great outpouring of support, it occurred to me that community theater is part of the community when the community wants it to be. Yeah. And it's obvious for 67 years the community has wanted us here. Yeah. So we just have to continue to build on that through the challenges of, post-pandemic and, the economic situation that, people have only so much disposable income, and I recognize that. But I do think we provide a good value, and exposing your children to theater is very, very wonderful. And we do it at a very affordable.
To the worth of the community, the value of the community, through volunteerism, through hard work, but also just through a lot of fun too. So,
it is.
Yeah.
So since that interview, I've actually been in a production at Engle Lane, and yes,
it was great.
It was great. It was so much fun. It added value to my life. It added value to the people that came to see it. That's what community theater does, and that's what a community does.
Yeah, it brings us together. It was really enjoyable seeing you in Newsies and
being evil.
Yeah, you did a great job being evil. So, our next guest that we're going to highlight is Stephanie Harcharik from Streator Unlimited. And speaking of community value, SU adds so much value to our community, not just by serving those with special needs, but it connects people. And Stephanie in this clip talks about how the clients at Streator Unlimited serve all throughout our community. She mentions in our interview that she placed people in 2004 that in 2024 are still serving in those roles. Yeah. And talk about, how many people actually stay in a career for 20 years in under normal circumstances. So let's check out what Stephanie has to say.
So part of the mission of Streator Unlimited is that we integrate our people into the community as best as we can. So, for example, the Night to Shine prom. Yeah. That is one of the highlights of the year. So thank you so much for doing that.
Coming up in February.
Absolutely. So. Always looking for volunteers as well, too.
We were looking for volunteers, exactly. Yeah, that'll be out soon.
Yep. But we like to get out in the community. We like to do a lot of things. So if you are an employer and you're looking for, somebody to work for you, always think about us. Reach out to us, see if we have somebody that could match that position. We're always looking for volunteer opportunities. So I know we had a group that was going out and doing some volunteer with pets at a shelter. So if you have anything like that you think we could be a part of, any outings, musical events, just let us know. We would love to attend there. We love to support our community as much as the community supports us.
Absolutely.
So those are the things that we're always looking to be a part of.
We love Streator Unlimited.
Oh, yeah.
We love Night to Shine. Like I said, coming up in February, the volunteer forms are out, so get signed up for that.
It'll be here before we know it.
But even more so, I love how Streator Unlimited has grown since I think this is the 60s when it started. Stephanie said, and it's become such an integral part to Streator.
Yeah.
It's not only just in the name. I think they're in the community and connected with us so much. So this last clip is Kate Tombaugh. Kate was our first interview of this year back in January of 2024, which seems like forever ago and also like it was just yesterday.
Both at the same time.
And the reason I picked this part in particular, Kate has a quote in here from The Secret Garden that I think really captures the spirit of what we're trying to do with the We're Here podcast, and also what Kate's doing with Poco a Poco and so many other things here in Streator. There's a part in our interview with Kate where she mentions that somebody had asked her, well, why Streator? And I think through our interviews, we're answering that question, why Streator?
Right.
I hope for a lot of people, that's really been our goal. But she has a great response to that of saying basically there's nowhere else in the world that she could do what she's doing through Poco a Poco and through some other great things that she's doing. And I think most of our guests would say very similar things. So let's hear from Kate.
All right.
We've had students that call, 8 years running. Now I have alums that call and they say, Ms. Tombaugh, I have to tell you, Poco a Poco was the most important thing I did in high school. Yeah. That's not why we're doing it, but that's pretty freaking cool.
That's a good win. Yeah, that's a good feeling.
I love it.
Yeah.
I just love because so quickly Poco a Poco became this thing beyond me. It was this idea I had. I love this quote from The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. She says, "At first, people refuse that a strange new thing can be done. Then they begin to hope it can be done. Then they begin to see it can be done. Then it is done, and all the world wonders why it wasn't done centuries ago."
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything super crazy, but when I started my one-woman show that I wrote myself and toured across 7 states, at first people were like, what? And then they're like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It was a little bit like that with Poco a Poco. And even this with the podcast, in a year, 2 years, you're going to have everybody like, I wish I'd thought of that. That's amazing. That's such a cool idea. So that's kind of that's the coolest thing. Like, I truly just feel like I'm guiding this wonderfully small, flexible, but massive growing ship of enthusiastic people that want to make a difference, that want to be connected, that want to have music in their lives. And I'm just guiding the ship and trying to, create the opportunities. I love it when somebody comes to me and says, oh, we got to do this. And, if it's like a trip to Italy, for instance, which was suggested to me, I said, Poco a Poco, little by little, we want to be around 50 years from now. And that's a great idea, but maybe bring that up to me in like 15 years. I don't ever want to crush people's ideas.
Yeah.
But there's so much, I just try to guide because there's so much great things happening.
So my youngest son, Simon, was in Poco a Poco over the summer, and it was a wonderful experience. She's truly organized something that is special. Like, she had many people there that were masters of their field that the kids, I hope, felt privileged to be taught by and would give their time and abilities to teach these kids more about who they are. I know Simon grew a lot through the process in a lot of areas, but it was a truly good experience for him and us, and I would assume he's going to do it again. He enjoyed it all.
Kate is always an encourager.
Yes.
And that's what I see a lot of our leaders in town are not only, she mentioned guiding a ship. A lot of our leaders in town are not trying to build their own brand or anything like that. And Kate's never struck me as anybody that's trying to do that as much as, outside of some of that you have to do in her
Right.
profession. But she's also trying to build other people up, especially the next generation.
Yes.
And so it's this idea of, building up others as you're rising, bringing them up with you. And I love that spirit.
I think all of these people had someone in their lives that did that for them.
Yep.
And they want to pay that forward.
Yeah, we stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yes,
all
we
of us.
do.
We do. So, so thank you so much for joining us for this special episode. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. It's been a little bit different. If you haven't watched any of these episodes, please go back and watch them. We've got, are we on episode 18 or
I think
something
so.
like that? I think,
It's
something crazy like that. So we've got 1.5 years of podcast episodes under our belt, and it's been a good experience.
It's been amazing.
I'm looking forward to doing more of it.
Yeah.
So here's what's coming up. We have so we're going to take January off. So for us, it's basically taking December off. Christmas is crazy around here, so
story.
we're gonna give ourselves some time, some breathing room, just to do the work that we are paid to do,
Right.
and what we have to do, and spend time with family. So we're gonna take January off. There won't be a January interview. We're gonna come back in February, strong and with some more Streator people. We hope you have enjoyed this kind of niche podcast of just trying to celebrate our town and show you the people that are making Streator such a great place to be.
Yep. It takes a community to build a community.
It does. So thank you very much for watching this episode, and we'll see you next time on the We're Here podcast.